Well, hello again, and welcome again to another episode of Down to Earth but Heavenly Minded. And I'm your host, Irvish. And today we're going to be looking at the Gospel of Mark again, and we're going to be in chapter 5 this time. And the very first start of this chapter is about Jesus healing a man with a demon. So, with that said, let us just look at our scripture. Then came to the other side of the sea, to the country of Jehoshaphat. And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tomb a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him any more, even with chains, for he had been often bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day, among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell before him. Wow, that's something. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you, by God, do not torment me." For he was saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now there was a great herd of pigs or swines was feeding there on the hillside. And they begged him, saying, "Send us into the pigs, let us enter them." So he gave them permission. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, ran violently down a steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. Isn't that something? Even the pigs could not take these demons. And yet this man was possessed by all these demons. Well, the herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the countries, and people came to see what it was what had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legions, sitting there, clothed in his right mind. And they were afraid. And those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. And he did not permit him, and said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. We're going to stop right there for a minute. We'll continue on here in a minute, but I'd just like to talk to you a little bit about this. One time, I had the opportunity to speak about my conversion, which was many years ago. I was a man not really possessed by a demon, but I was really possessed by sin. I lived a wild life. I drank, I swore, I smoked, I did so many things that were offensive. In fact, I tell you what, I quit smoking cigarettes one time and I got started smoking cigars. And I smoked 25 cigars a day. That was those nickel cigars. I smelled so bad from that uh, smoking all those cigars that even my brother-in-laws didn't even want to get in a vehicle with me. They said I reeked. And really, I think about this. Even though I wasn't possessed by a demon, I was possessed. So I was a violent man. Nobody could tame me. But then I met Jesus, just like this man. And I fell at Jesus' feet. And Jesus took all my sins away. He got rid of the demons that I had. That's what I call them. And so I can relate to this man. Nobody could tame him. But now he's in his right mind, and he's sitting at the feet of Jesus. And yet, these people were so afraid. They wanted Jesus to leave the country. They didn't understand this. And when I start telling my friends what had happened to me, they didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And maybe that was a good thing. You know, I even tried going into bars and witnessing to people, but that wasn't the place to witness. People just made fun of it. So I just quit doing it. You know, the people that are still living in sin and darkness and are possessed by sin, not by demons, they don't understand the love of God and how much He does for you. He cleaned me up. I don't smell like a cigar anymore. I haven't smoked for many, many years. I haven't drank. I don't smoke. And my life is not wild anymore. I don't crave to do these things that I used to do. I live a peaceful life. And it's all because I'm in my right mind. God changed me. So I can understand what happened with this man. Well, this chapter continues on with Jesus healing a woman and also Jairus' daughter. So there's two healings here. And when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd followed him about, and he was beside the sea. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet. And we have another person falling at Jesus' feet. And he implored him earnestly, saying, My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live. And he went with him. And a great crowd followed him and thronged about him. And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard the reports about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd, and touched the garment, just his garment. And she said, If I touch even his garment, I will be made well. That was faith. And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone out from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, Who touched my garment? Wow. And the disciples said to him, You see the crowd pressing about you, and yet say, Who touched me? and he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell before him and told him the whole truth. You see another person falling at Jesus' feet. And he said to the woman, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." So we see another healing. But it doesn't stop there. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher?" Any further. But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John and the brothers of John, or James, I'm sorry. And they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw the commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, "Why are you making such a commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside and took the child, father and mother, and those who were with him, and they went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talabah Kama," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up and began walking, and she was about 12 years of age. And they were immediately overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. You know, I think the Lord did not want this publicized because they wanted to make him king right then and there, but he came for another purpose the first time. He was the suffering Messiah. You know, a lot of people believe that there was two Messiahs, the suffering Messiah and then those that'll reign, but he was one. Because he rose from the dead, he's going to be the Messiah who comes again. He's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But all this is happening, and we have the recording of it, and all these witnesses. And, you know, if this case was taken to court, the evidence is overwhelming. And, you know, if we could put each one of these people on the stand and ask them what happened, they would tell us. And even when Christ rose, there was 500 at one time saw the Lord. How many more witnesses do you need? You know, the tomb was empty. Christ is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. And we see all this happening in the Gospel of Mark. So next time we get together, we're going to look at chapter 6. So with that said, we're going to just end our session today. So bye for now.